The first thing I saw was the elk head, dead center on the wall behind the desk, massive antlers, glass eyes staring like it was about to judge me. That stupid, oversized head used to belong to the founder, part of his weird man's man aesthetic. I'd only been in this office twice before, and both times it was for good news, not today. I stepped in, expecting to see Paul, my boss for the last 8 years. But instead, there was this smug little punk in a navy blazer leaned back in the chair like he'd just won a raffle. No handshake, no have a seat. Just a flick of his eyes and a half smile that made me want to wipe it off with the door. Hey, you're early. Let's keep this quick. His name was Tyler, Paul's nephew. Barely 30, if that. New title, VP of Strategy. Real title, parasite with a Wi-Fi password. Where's Paul? I asked, already knowing. Out of office, he said, waving at the big windows like Paul was floating somewhere above the trees. He left this to me. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? He slid a check across the desk. No envelope. Just out in the open like a piece of scrap paper. $3,800, he said slowly, like he was teaching a kid to count. Generous, considering the circumstances. I didn't move. You're cutting me loose, I said flatly. He nodded. You've been appreciated, but we're streamlining. I'm sure you understand. Honestly, you should be grateful. A lot of guys don't even get a check. I stared at him for a second, then folded the check once, twice, tucked it in my notebook like it was a coupon for a free sandwich. I stood up. Thanks, I said. I'll treasure it. He smirked. No hard feelings, right? I walked out without answering. The hallway was dead silent. Not the usual Monday morning buzz. No, hey man, or what's up. Just people pretending I was a ghost. Someone fake coughed as I passed, like their throat suddenly needed attention more than I did. At my desk, I pulled out the cardboard box I'd stashed under the drawers years ago, just in case. Didn't think I'd actually use it. I started with the basics. The coffee mug with the chip on the handle, a couple sketches from old prototypes. Then I saw the photo, me, the founder, and 2 others back when the whole company was 4 people and a folding table. We all looked like hell, but we'd built something. I slid the photo into the box and kept packing. I was wrapping the power cord around my monitor when I heard his loafers behind me. Nothing personal, he said, like we were at a goddamn dinner party. Then he winked. A full-blown, teeth-showing country club wink. I didn't even look at him, just kept rapping. He stood there a second longer like he expected me to beg or swing. When I didn't, he turned and walked off, whistling something off-key down the hallway. That's when the memory hit. Me and the founder, Dale, sitting in the break room, which back then was just a beat-up coffee machine next to a sink that leaked. I'd stayed late fixing a prototype bug. He came in, handed me a beer, and said, "You know, if they ever try to cheapen you, they'll cheapen themselves out of business." I thought it was just old man puff talk, until he added, "That's why I put in that clause, just in case some idiot down the line forgets who made this place run." I laughed at the time. We were 5 years in, barely profitable, and drowning in credit card debt. The idea of someone cutting my pay was laughable. I was already eating ramen 3 nights a week. But he made me take the contract home, read it line by line, and sign it. Now, I couldn't remember the exact wording, just that it was buried somewhere in the back, something about ownership rights tied to compensation. At the time, I thought it was sentimental, like a founder trying to show appreciation. Now, it felt like a damn grenade. I tossed the last notebook in the box and shut it tight. Didn't tape it, just tucked the flaps in and walked out with it in my arms like I was hauling groceries. Past the same people, still pretending I didn't exist. One guy even got real interested in the water cooler when I walked by. In the elevator, I caught my reflection, tired, not defeated, just done with the place. The lobby felt colder than usual, probably just me. I pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot, loaded the box into my trunk, and sat in the driver's seat for a second with the engine off. That check was still in my notebook, folded like a napkin. I pulled it out, stared at the numbers, 3,800 and 100. They really dragged every inch of insult into that amount. I drove 2 blocks to my bank and walked it in. The teller smiled like it was just another Friday. And I smiled back like I wasn't depositing the dumbest exit bonus in company history. I signed the back and slid it under the glass. "You want a balance slip?" she asked. "Nope." I walked out and sat in my car again. Then I pulled out my phone. There was only one lawyer I trusted for something like this. Real quiet guy, ex-DOJ, built like a linebacker but read contracts like love letters. I hadn't talked to him in months. He picked up after 2 rings. "Hey, you got time?" I asked. "For you?" "Always," he said. "What's going on?" "I just got fired." Silence for half a beat. "Seriously?" "Yeah, some legacy hire with a trust fund fired me in the elk room. Said I should be grateful." He whistled. "All right, what's the play?" "I've got an old contract with a clause. Dale put it in years ago. Something about intellectual property reverting to me if my pay dropped below a threshold." "You still have the contract?" "Yeah, it's at home, in a drawer somewhere." "Find it. Scan it. Send it to me tonight." I nodded, even though he couldn't see. "You think it'll hold?" "If it says what you think it says," he said, "it's gonna be a bloodbath." I hung up and started the car. I drove straight home. Didn't turn on the radio. Didn't stop for food. Just ran the founder's voice over and over in my head. "They cheapen you. They cheapen themselves out of business." In my apartment, I went straight to the hallway closet, shoved past an old backpack and a box of tangled Christmas lights, and found the filing bin at the bottom. The contract was inside a plastic sleeve, right where I left it. 3rd drawer in, bottom slot. Like a damn landmine, I laid it out on my kitchen table under the worst lighting known to man. Page after page of startup boilerplate. Equity, NDAs, vesting schedules. Until there it was. Clause 18B. If the employee's base monthly compensation falls below $4,000 USD for any reason, exclusive ownership of all prior inventions, designs, and derivative works created under this agreement shall revert in full to the employee. I read it 3 times, slow, dated, initialed, signed by both of us, no expiration, no conditions. It wasn't a courtesy, it was a weapon. I fired off scans to my lawyer with a quick message. "You were right, it's in there, signed and airtight." He called back 20 minutes later. "Clause is enforceable," he said. "There's no sunset clause, no exceptions, nothing that undercuts it." I sat down on the edge of my couch. "So what happens now?" "We wait," he said. 30 days. That's the trigger. No posts, no emails, no leaks. You stay dead silent. Let them walk right into it." I exhaled. "You sure?" "I've handled mergers that hinged on less. This is real." "All right," I said. "We start the clock." That night, I slept harder than I had in weeks. By morning, the company's LinkedIn was already dancing on my grave. Some PR intern had slapped together a post about leaner operations, with buzzwords like efficiency gains and strategic realignment. Right in the middle of it was a photo of Tyler, front and center, doing his best wannabe CEO pose, grinning like he just made Employee of the Month at a gas station. The comments were all handshakes and flame emojis from people who'd never stepped foot inside a factory. I didn't respond. I didn't even screenshot it. Let them enjoy their little bonfire. I had my hands on the gas can. Behind the scenes, my lawyer moved fast. He got a docket started for IP reversion filings, trademark paperwork, usage notifications. We pulled old drafts, saved emails, and time-stamped prototypes. Everything I'd ever touched or built under that roof. We tagged it, dated it, and prepped it like evidence. He brought in a specialist for international rights, another for enforcement. Just in case they try to produce overseas, he said. Every day, I watched the company toss more garbage online, more staged photos, more fluff about bold pivots, and new leadership. Tyler gave some smug interview with a startup blog, talking about modernizing legacy systems. He smiled the whole time, like a guy who just won a prize he didn't know how to open. None of it mattered. Behind their flashy posts and corporate ego stroking, they were walking straight into a buzzsaw. I didn't feel excited. I felt surgical, focused. It wasn't revenge, it was math. And the clock was ticking. Day 30 started like any other. I poured coffee into the chipped mug I'd brought home from the office, same one that used to sit on my desk under that flickering overhead light. Outside, the The street was quiet. August heat already rising off the pavement. My phone buzzed at 9:02 a.m. One-line text from my lawyer. It's live. You now own everything. I didn't smile, didn't pump my fist or post some dramatic status update. I just sat there and let it settle. Every single design I'd ever drawn, every prototype, every patent filed under my name, it all reverted. Legally, fully, no appeals. They didn't even own the rights to make their own flagship product anymore. My lawyer waited until 10:15 to send the fax. The licensing terms were short. 7 figures, up front, no installments, back fees included. Or they could stop manufacturing immediately and explain to clients why the shelves would be empty. The letterhead had my name on it. Plain, bold, clean. At 10:47, Tyler walked into the main office with his usual smug bounce. He picked up the fax off the front desk, glanced at the first page, and smirked like it was a chain letter. He read maybe 3 lines, then snorted and walked it over to his desk, flipped it over like it belonged in the recycling pile, didn't even bother calling legal. That lasted about an hour, because the board chairman got the second copy. From what I was told later, the moment he saw my signature, he stopped mid-conversation and said, "Is this real?" 10 minutes after that, he was on the phone. I was still at my kitchen table when the call came in. Unknown number. I picked up. "This is Harold Whitman, chairman of the board," he said. Voice clipped, old school serious. "I need clarification on a legal notice your counsel submitted this morning." I didn't answer right away. "Mister," he started again. "I know who you are," I said. "And it's not a notice. It's a license agreement." He cleared his throat. "We need to understand the scope of what you're claiming here." "It's not a claim," I said. "It's a clause. Clause 18B, signed by Dale himself, fully triggered as of this morning." He went quiet. I heard the rustle of paper. Then, carefully, he asked, "You're asserting that our IP no longer belongs to us?" "No," I said. "I'm not asserting, I'm confirming. Your team paid me under the threshold. That triggered the clause. So unless you've come up with a whole new product line in the last 30 days, you're trespassing on every design you're currently producing." He exhaled, slowly. "I need to get legal on the line." "You do that," I said. "Clock's ticking." I hung up and finished my coffee. By noon, legal was in full scramble mode. Someone leaked an internal message thread. Tyler had posted a screenshot of the fax in the company Slack with a caption, "Guess someone's feelings got hurt, LOL." He was still laughing. Until the second call came in, this time to him. Word is the chairman didn't raise his voice. Just read the licensing demand out loud. Said they had 72 hours to comply or shut it all down. That was the first time Tyler didn't smirk. He tried to push back. Said it was bluff. Said no court would enforce something that old. Then the general counsel told him it was airtight, logged, and legally binding. The payout clause was real. And it had teeth. He stopped talking after that. By 3 p.m., their entire leadership team was in emergency session. They'd built their whole future on work they no longer owned. Investors were already circling, asking questions they couldn't answer. The same people who'd ghosted me in the hallway were now reading my name on a fax with 7 zeros behind it. And I hadn't even stepped in the building. By the next morning, their legal team had done the math. And they were screwed. Every single design, spec, and prototype I'd ever touched was out of their control. My patents were gone from their books like someone had hit delete. The factory couldn't run. The shipping floor sat on pallets they couldn't legally move. And the contracts, client side, supplier side, all of it, hanging by a thread. Nobody was yelling yet, but the building was full of that cold, heavy silence people make when they're trying not to admit what's happening. Just fingers flying on keyboards, Slack messages getting shorter and sharper. One of the engineers I used to work with, Raj, texted me around 10:30. "Is it true? Everything reverted? Even Gen 5 specs?" I replied, "Every version. If my name's on it, it's mine." 5 minutes later, another coworker I hadn't heard from in months dropped a screenshot of their internal dashboard. Half the product line was tagged under review, licensing dispute. Then another one sent a nervous joke. "Can I pay you $50 to let us ship one more box?" I didn't answer that one. Tyler finally made his move around noon. He posted a long, greasy message on LinkedIn. Said the company was entering a strategic transition phase, using it as an opportunity to refocus the brand around core values. He even tossed in the word synergy, like that meant something. Half the people who commented clearly hadn't heard the news yet. The other half were PR people trying to hold the seams together. But behind closed doors, it was unraveling. By one, a Tier 1 supplier from Indiana sent a formal request for clarification. Then a longtime client in Arizona pulled their purchase order pending resolution of ownership issues. More emails followed, a dozen, then 24. My phone lit up with every new hit. Not from the company, from people watching it happen. One coworker texted, "Legal's drowning, they can't answer basic IP questions." Another sent, "Tyler looks like he hasn't slept. He asked if we could retool something to avoid the clause. We can't." He was panicking, but trying hard not to show it. That afternoon, I got a forwarded email chain, internal, where one of their lawyers laid it out plain. Unless we negotiate licensing immediately, we are facing production shutdown and breach of contract with at least 9 partners. They finally understood. This wasn't just paperwork. This was the engine, the frame, the whole damn vehicle. They had the shell, but I held the keys and the gas. Tyler tried to downplay it again later that day. Called a company-wide video meeting where he talked for 9 straight minutes without saying anything real. Something about forward adaptability and resilience through innovation. No one asked questions. Cameras stayed off. Meanwhile, clients kept calling. Emails escalated. One of them, a major retailer in Texas, demanded a full IP breakdown by end of day. They didn't get it. Because legal didn't have anything to give, I just sat in my apartment, watching it all spread. Not gloating, not laughing, just locked in. Steady. This was the point where most people flinch, where they second guess and start dialing to soften the blow. I didn't. They'd had their chance. They could have left my name on the door, could have picked up a phone, asked a real question, shown some spine. Instead, they sent a legacy brat in a blazer to cut my throat over $200. Now the bleeding was on their end. By the next morning, they finally blinked. My lawyer texted me before sunrise. They sent someone. It wasn't Tyler. The board had brought in a clean-suited negotiator from one of those crisis firms. Old school type, probably used to fixing mergers, not begging for design scraps from the guy they shoved out the door. He sat across from my lawyer and slid a number across the table. Flat buyout. 7 figures. Decent, but not high enough. They wanted full rights, patents, designs, naming, everything. My lawyer didn't even take a breath before saying no. The licensing terms stand, he told him. You want to use the work, you license it. And you pay the back fees in full. The guy tried to posture, mentioned uncertainty, dragged out words like cooperation and goodwill. My lawyer let him run his mouth for 15 minutes, then stood up and ended the meeting. By noon, they knew the answer was final. That's when Tyler called me. Blocked number. I answered anyway. "Hey man," he said, soft and slow, like we were old friends. I wanted to talk. One-on-one. I stayed quiet. I know things got off on the wrong foot, but this is bigger than you and me. There are families involved now. You know that, right? He was trying for sympathy. Probably rehearsed it in front of a mirror. Payroll's at risk, he went on. Suppliers, shipping teams. Our assembly guys have kids. You're putting a lot of people in a hard place. I leaned back on my couch and let him keep going. He was desperate, but still too proud to sound like it. We're not villains, he said. We just need to work something out, like adults, like people who've both built something here. I let a second pass, just so he thought maybe I was considering it. Then I said, "You remember what you told me in the trophy room?" Silence on his end. Not total. I could hear him breathing, waiting. "You said, be grateful for your last $3,800 paycheck." You dragged out the number like it was a punchline. He tried to jump in. I didn't mean, but I wasn't done. "And now you want me to worry about your payroll?" Nothing. I hung up before he could spin it again, put the phone face down, and stared at the ceiling for a second. My hands were steady, no adrenaline, just clean, quiet clarity. They'd underestimated me when I was inside. Now they were trying to negotiate like I'd forgotten. I hadn't, and I wasn't giving anything back. 2 days later, I walked back through the front doors of the building they threw me out of. Not because I had to, because I wanted to see the look on their faces. My lawyer walked beside me, calm as ever, holding a black folder under his arm like it was a menu. I wasn't wearing a suit. Didn't need one. Just jeans, a black shirt, and the same jacket I wore the day they fired me. The receptionist looked up like she'd seen a ghost. She didn't say a word. Upstairs, the boardroom was packed. Every chair full. Legal counsel in the corner. CEO at the head of the table, hands clasped like he was bracing for a crash. He looked wrecked, eyes sunken, tie loosened, mouth twitching at the corners. Tyler sat 3 seats down from him, pale and jittery, like he hadn't eaten in a day. He didn't meet my eyes. The licensing agreement was already printed and placed in front of every seat. 7 pages. Simple terms, no loopholes. Recurring annual fees, adjustable by volume. Late penalties. Interest on back pay. And the branding clause. My name, stamped on every single product they sold. Packaging, manuals, marketing. No exceptions. One of the older board members flipped to that page and frowned. This branding requirement, he said, we'd like to negotiate that piece. Perhaps a quiet acknowledgement, internal only. I shook my head once. Not happening. But public-facing inclusion is non-negotiable, I cut in. You built your margins off my work. My name's going on every unit that leaves your factory. If that's a problem, you're welcome to shut it all down. My lawyer didn't flinch. He didn't even look up from his notes. Silence moved across the table like a cold front. The CEO cleared his throat. We've reviewed the numbers. We'll comply. That was the green light. One by one, they started signing. Pen scratches echoed in the dead room like floorboards creaking under weight. Nobody looked at each other. Nobody looked at me. Just paper, ink, and quiet humiliation. Tyler signed last. His hand was shaking. I stood still and watched them all finish. Didn't smile, didn't gloat. This wasn't a celebration. It was closure. My lawyer gathered the signed copies into his folder. We'll send the countersigned version this evening. Licenses become active immediately upon execution. Late fees begin accruing next quarter. No one answered. We left without another word. Back in the elevator, I could feel the heat finally leaving my chest. Not anger, just the tension that had been sitting there since that morning in the trophy room. My lawyer hit the ground floor button and said, "They'll never forget this." I nodded. That's the point. We stepped out into the sunlight. Deal in hand. Nothing left to say. We didn't even make it back to the parking lot before the texts started rolling in. Tyler's out. CEO's on the chopping block. Shareholders are pissed. You just triggered a full audit. The ink was still drying on the agreement. Apparently, Tyler had been sidelined for optics, whatever that meant. Official title still intact, but stripped of decision-making power. Last I heard, they stuck him in a windowless office down the hall from legal. Probably safer for everyone. The CEO wasn't so lucky. His head was already halfway on the block. Shareholder meeting was coming up fast, and the rumor mill was saying votes were being counted. Quietly, but definitely. Meanwhile, marketing was losing its mind. They had to pull every brochure, reprint every box label, rebuild the entire website with my name listed on every single product line. Not optional, not creative license, contractual obligation. Some of them tried to sneak around it, abbreviate it, shrink it, bury it in the fine print. Legal stopped that real quick. I didn't micromanage it, didn't need to. Clients were already calling in, demanding confirmation that the licensing terms were valid and up to date. They didn't want another surprise. They wanted receipts. And the company had only one place to point, me. My lawyer set up a separate account just for royalty flow. Clean channel, monthly reports, no excuses. Every dollar they made off my work from that day forward passed through me first. I kept it all tight. No press, no interviews. I let the facts speak. Quiet, controlled dominance. Let them explain what happened while I moved on to other things. Tyler tried posting again. Something vague and philosophical about growth through adversity. No one bought it. The comments were dry. Most of his usual backpatters stayed silent. A few posted links to news about licensing lawsuits in similar situations. I didn't comment. Didn't need to. The company survived. But only because I let it. They kept the lights on, orders kept moving, clients stayed, for now. But the whole foundation had shifted. They didn't own the core anymore. I did, and they knew it. That night I sat on my couch, lights off, watching a streetlight flicker through the window. Same apartment, same old couch, same chipped mug in my hand. Nothing fancy, but everything felt different. The shift wasn't just legal. It wasn't ink on paper or signatures on a licensing deal. It was real, solid, permanent. They didn't own it anymore, I did. Not just the designs, not just the patents, the power, the direction, the leverage they thought they stole in a 10-minute meeting and a $3,800 check. I took it back with interest. They'd work around me now, schedule around me, budget around me, year after year. Because the thing they thought was disposable wasn't. And the guy they thought they could replace couldn't be. I didn't feel giddy. I didn't feel smug. I just felt clear. They'd underestimated what I built, what I gave, what I could take back. And now, they'd pay to use it. Every product with my name on it. Every shipment. Every pitch deck. A little reminder. Not loud. Not public. Just there. Unavoidable. I glanced over at the folder sitting on the table. Final countersigned copies. Everything sealed, filed, enforced. They'd never make that mistake again. I leaned back, sipped the last of the cold coffee, and raised the mug to no one in particular. The glaze was cracked, handle chipped, lip stained from years of use. It wasn't worth much. But neither was the decision that started all this. I held the mug up a little higher. To the best $200 mistake they ever made.